All right, so another insider confirmed that Howie Roseman is calling around, desperately trying to find another trade. The problem is the quote-unquote names that are tied to Philadelphia might have been made up the entire time. Kevin Byard practiced for the first time yesterday. Here by Brandon Graham, though, emphasized patience for expectations for the star safety. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. All right, so the NFL trade deadline is just 4 days away, and although it's not yet Christmas season yet, Santa did already give the Eagles an early Christmas gift by giving them star safety Kevin Byard. Yesterday, we got to see Kevin Byard on the practice field for the very first time, albeit with some blurry Eagles beat writer, iPhone 5S footage, and you can't really tell anything more than the fact that it's definitely Kevin Byard. He looks good in Eagles green, and hopefully he's going to be out there on Sunday. And the expectation is Byard will get starter caliber reps alongside Reed Blankenship, completing that Middle Tennessee State starting safety duo. But with it just being days after technically being 2-5 and a Tennessee Titan, Brandon Graham did a good job putting things into perspective for all of us on the expectations early for Kevin Byard.
I think it's just all about us just being able to have that chemistry together. So I think we will, because we do got a chemistry now. And I mean, I know Kev has a good track record, a good background of what people have been saying about him. So it's just more about him making plays, because personality is there.
Now, safety is not quarterback. It's not the hardest position in the National Football League to enter in and immediately get up to speed. But if Kevin Byard doesn't look like an all-pro caliber safety this weekend, I wouldn't panic just yet. The expectation is he's going to get up to speed as quickly as possible and hopefully start contributing at a very, very high rate. How many tackles do you guys think Kevin Byard will have? Let me know down below the tackles and the score of the Eagles-Commanders game. If you get it right, I'll send one of you this Hertz Brown 2023 t-shirt, because they're the president and vice president we actually need. Of course, if multiple people get it right, I'll pick one of them, random winner, only giving away one of these t-shirts, but give me your prediction down below. Now, speaking of Christmas, Jason Kelce confirmed the other day on his New Heights podcast that the Eagles offensive linemen are creating another Philly special Christmas album coming out on December 1st, with proceeds going to multiple charities. Side note, my mom listened to the last album like 50,000 times in the month of December. She's at least thrilled about this. Oh, and it looks like Taylor Swift's boyfriend is going to be making an appearance on the album as well.
Yeah, I am, and yeah, we had a fun song. That song was actually pretty sweet, man. I enjoyed doing it. Yeah, I think that they made me sound extremely better.
It's pretty remarkable what they can do.
The first album raised like $1.25 million for charity, so maybe with the additional sales to the Swifties, and the sweet voices of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, they can bump that number up a little bit and help out a bunch of great causes. Now, speaking of Lane Johnson and that sack streak, for those wondering, that Jalen Phillips sack of Jalen Hurts was officially credited to Sua Opeta, who was supposed to slide the protection. Therefore, the Lane Johnson hasn't given up a sack since Week 11 of 2022 narrative is still very much alive and well. Thumbs up for that. What's also alive and well, as mentioned earlier, is Howie Roseman calling desperately around the National Football League to try and find another trade partner to continue to bolster up this roster. Now, that initial report came yesterday. We mentioned it on the show via Diana Rossini of The Athletic on the Ryan Russillo podcast. But now we have Thomas Dimitrov, the former Falcons GM, on the Kay Adams show, basically saying the same thing.
Talk to me a little bit more, Howie, about where you are with all these moves and what you do this time of year, as well as Brandon Beane, guys like that I have a lot of respect for, trying to make sure things haven't changed in the 3 years I've been out. 100%. There's so much going on. It's what they feel, Howie specifically, it's his obligation to make sure he does what's best for the team, of course, and always keeping his eyes out there for potential guys who are going to improve their team.
Now, this second confirmation that Howie Roseman is still working on deals further sent Eagles trade Twitter into a frenzy. But you got to be careful when stuff like this drops, because Twitter is full of misinformation, just like this one from the NFC North News, who said, breaking, the Eagles and Vikings have a trade in place to send Harrison Smith to Philly, but fell through in the last minute. Following a big win versus the 49ers, everyone expected Minnesota to be buyers, not sellers at the deadline. It was almost quite the opposite when the Eagles GM called the Vikings GM. Howie wanted Harrison Smith and in return was prepared to offer a 3rd and 7th round pick in 2024. Kwesi agreed and was about to give the go-ahead before he unexpectedly raised his voice and told Howie he needs a 6th rounder, or, well, he couldn't do that deal. Howie hung up and called the Titans and got a deal done. Now, at first glance, that sounds like a real thing happened. Wow, Howie was going for Harrison Smith, who's 34 years old and more expensive than Kevin Byard. Wait a second. The Eagles don't have a 2024 third-round draft pick or a 2024 seventh-round draft pick. Clearly, this was absolutely made up.
See, there's a typical fake news deal.
Stay frosty out there, kids. Don't believe random Twitter accounts with blue check marks who say, sources say, without actually giving you a real source. Here's another good example. The always reliable ML Football tweeted this yesterday saying, quote, the Eagles really like Colts Pro Bowl cornerback Kenny Moore, sources say. Howie Roseman GM has been very active on the phones and continues to look all over the league. It is unknown if Moore is available for trade. I really like $50 million. It doesn't mean I'm going to get $50 million today. What is this tweet? Now, I've cited ML Football before, but it's always whenever they are actually citing legit reporters, like per Adam Schefter or per Albert Breer. When ML Football or JPA Football or some of these non-legit Twitter accounts just throw out sources say the Eagles really like this player, it doesn't mean the Eagles are going to go ahead and trade for Kenny Moore. Now, I will agree with Josh Davis, who said earlier this morning that Kenny Moore is a perfect fit for Philadelphia, and echoed what the Philly voice said about him, saying, quote, Moore is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and even made the NFL's top 100 list a season ago. Anyway, this is a pretty obvious fit. Moore is a savvy veteran who his teammates seem to love and can fit in any locker room culture. He is also in the final year of his deal, thus making him very easy to trade. So it worked great, right? But Philadelphia has had a lot of contribution from Eli Ricks at the cornerback slot. Sidney Brown is now healthy, and he can play in the nickel. And the addition of Kevin Byard basically tells me they're probably good at the nickel spot, unless the Colts were willing to give up Kenny Moore for pennies on the dollar. One thing to definitely keep in mind, though, as Diana Rossini said yesterday on the Ryan Russillo podcast, that this weekend's slate of games will have a big determining factor on who are sellers at the trade deadline and who might keep some of these potential trade targets in order to make a run for the playoffs. For example, if the Vikings beat the Packers, they go 4-4 and seemingly won't be big-time sellers due to the fact they're still alive in their both their division and the playoff hunt. And likewise, if the Colts lose to the Saints, they fall to 3-5, and their chances of making a playoff run without Anthony Richardson would be all but zero. So while a lot of reports have happened this week, I expect Monday to be crazy in the NFL after teams have either won or lost here in Week 8. Side note, be sure to subscribe, because I'll be one of the first ones to discover everything happening with Philadelphia, minus all the BS fake news. I will say the one move I hope another team does not make is all these rumors of Derrick Henry at Dallas. The reports are out there. Let's just all hope Derrick Henry doesn't become a Cowboy and old Jerry Jones stays put at the deadline. Now, we did get some new additions to the Eagles injury report yesterday. You see Bradbury now on there, Zach Cunningham on there, Jordan Davis's name makes an appearance for the first time, but Reed Blankenship was again seen practicing yesterday. Looks pretty good, albeit again on blurry potato footage from some random Eagles beat writer. It's safe to say that everybody on the injury report is going to play, except probably Bradley Roby. Jalen Hurts looked like his normal self at practice yesterday as well, but he did have that small brace on his left knee. I'm just tired of talking about the whole non-existent, existent, bad, good, medium knee injury for Jalen Hurts, so we'll just say he looks fine, he's going to play. Someone who might not play, though, is Commanders' top linebacker Cody Barton, who was not at practice yesterday and is on track to miss this weekend. And also, keep an eye on Commanders' #1 cornerback Benjamin St-Juste, who was added to their injury report with a thigh issue yesterday. If he's unable to go, the #1 cornerback for the Commanders will be our favorite Emmanuel Forbes, giving us the Emmanuel Forbes versus A.J. Brown matchup, part 2, that we all know, love, and deserve in Philadelphia. Side note, ever since Brown gifted Forbes this touchdown catch, he has been on the downswing. He's fallen on some hard times. Look at his snap counts plummet. He only had 5 snaps last week in Week 7. Now, the Eagles are 7-point favorites heading into Sunday's matchup against the Washington Commanders, and I'm kind of torn between this being a blowout and another close one because Washington always plays Philadelphia right up to the wire. Although if you feel confident in the Eagles -7 or maybe Washington +7, you can use my BetMGM link down below and get a crazy first-time offer if you've never signed up for BetMGM. We got plenty more stuff happening over the next couple of days and weeks. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe. The trade deadline is coming. We'll be live during the Washington Commanders game versus the Eagles, giving away that Kelly Green jersey we mentioned on the live show. Be sure to thumbs up and stay tuned. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.